Welcome to Joy of Business Radio, hosted by Joy of Business facilitators from around the world, with special shows from Simone Milasas, the founder and creator of Joy of Business. Are you bored or dissatisfied with your work or business? Joy of Business is an invitation to a completely new way of creating. Did you know your business and job can actually be fun and joyful? If what you are currently doing isn't working for you, listen into this show full of pragmatic tools from Access Consciousness, which change everything in business, from money to finance, staff, creativity, productivity, communication, and beyond. Joy of Business Radio, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the OMTimes Joy of Business Radio Show. My name is Amanda Belluso, and today I am here with my lovely husband, Andrea.
And here I am. Hi to everybody.
And today we are exploring a subject that most people do not even want to start talking about.
No, they kind of freak out when you even mention it.
Which is being married in business. So we are married.
And we're in business.
What? How does that even go together?
Well, quite easily, actually, because, if, as Simone herself says, if you wake up in the morning, then you're in business. And if you're married, well, that's kind of, you wake up every morning. So I guess you're in business too.
And it's the really cool thing that I would love to explore during this hour as well is how we actually use the tools of Access Consciousness and of Joy of Business in our everyday life, both as a married couple and also as business partners. And honestly, I do not know if we could do what we're doing without these tools.
No, absolutely. No. It would be totally impossible. And the way that normal, and I put, little marks in the word normal in front and after, normal people would actually think of being in business with your partner, your husband or wife, is that it has to go in either one or the other way. And with that, I mean that it can either go that you have to separate the two because you cannot work with your partner because you have to take time off from your work because you have to have downtime, you have to breathe and all of that stuff. And then it comes to the money part where you have to either there include or separate in some way or another, and not looking at it from how we look at the whole thing, which is basically a creation of our lives together. And also not going into, so this is the business, this is our married life, and this is our private lives, and how do we all fit it in? It's just a creation and being together with somebody. And here we go into the relationship aspect of it, is that if somebody does not contribute to your own life, then I could not perceive of having a relationship with that person. Most people actually think that you have to, cut parts of you off for being in a relationship. So when you're being married, it's even more that.
And we both have those experiences, right?
We totally do. We totally do. And those were interesting choices.
Yeah, and one of the key things that Andrea just said here now is that we actually don't, because we get the question all the time, how do you make it work? How do you make it work being married and working together and basically being with each other 24/7 for the most part? Well, one of the main key tools to actually making it work is exactly what Andrea just said. It's not separating any of it from each other and just allowing all of it to be the creation of our lives. And for me personally as well, now we're talking about how we are creating business as a married couple, but also for yourself, even if you are, having your own business, just you, what if it doesn't have to be now I'm working and now I'm not working?
Yeah,
what
totally.
If it could actually just be one big creation of your life, basically? And that's also what happens when you do stuff and when you have projects and when your business is something that you actually enjoy and that you're actually enjoying.
Exactly. This is, if you look at the broader picture of your life in general, how do you consider your life? How do you look at your life? Is your life like, you know, a lot of people say that you're here in the world and you have a certain time until you're actually alive. So you have to make the most of it in that time, and you have to do certain things by the time you're 30, other things by the time you're 40, other things by the time you're 50, and all of those mile points and chapters in the so-called life that you have to do and respect in order to fit in and be successful. What exactly? What if instead you look at your life in general? So we start with looking at your life as a great adventure. So when you're on a great adventure, even if you have your life very structured according to this reality, when you're having an adventure, even if it's for a weekend, how do you look at that? Do you look at it as something that is full of wonders? In other words, becomes wonderful, and with a lot of question marks and not knowing where you're going, not knowing what you're going to see, not knowing how it's going to show up. And what if you were to apply that to the adventure of your life?
Yeah.
And in that adventure, then you have, you know, that maybe you meet somebody that actually contributes to your life and you get married. And maybe you actually want to create something more with that person, which is a business. And business for me is not like, you know, I have to get a job or start a company in order to make, you know, X amount of money a year and have goals and things like any other normal business does, but really like involving everything in this adventure of life and living.
Yeah, and it's not a common point of view to see business as an adventure of living in this reality. It's already there.
I know.
The way that we create is very different. And honestly, like all of you listening out there, if you just look for yourself or look at yourself and honestly ask yourself, is the way that this reality creates business and creates a life with everything that Andrea just said as well, with all of these fixed points of views of how it should look and what you should earn, and that success is just based on the money that you earn and all of that. Is that actually what is true for you? Or is what we're talking about way lighter and way more fun and way more exciting? And what if you could actually start creating from that energy instead?
God, yes. I mean, for me, it was, if I speak from my personal experience, it was quite clear from the very, very early ages that I was not made to, you know, be employed in a company. And I actually saw greater possibilities of what I could create and contribute with, not just for myself, but to the whole world. And so I was, you know, 16 when I started working as an assistant, and I worked for 3 years without any money. So it was quite obvious already then that that was not my driver, but it was mainly creating that was my driver.
Yeah.
And that's what we do today. We look at it, and of course we enjoy money. I love making money. I love making money from what I create, from what we create together. But it's not the source.
Yeah.
It's a massive and beautiful bonus which allows us to create even more. Yeah. That's really what it is. But it's really the freedom of creating something. It's like when, you know, if you relate to when you were a kid and you were, you know, even before you went to school, when you, I don't know, maybe you don't remember these days but just the energy of being so free of playing and doing whatever you want and having fun until somebody else told you to, you know, be quiet and sit down and refrain yourself from having fun and all of that, concentrate and focus. And honestly, how much does that work for all of us?
Yeah, and how much doesn't that kill our creativity and
totally.
Our true, like, I don't want to say potential is the wrong word, but capacity rather to actually create and to create beyond all of those fixed points of views and judgments and everything that everyone else tells you that you have to do. What if you could just allow yourself to play? Yeah,
totally. And that's what it is. If we're going to, you know, what this radio show is about, which is, you know, business and relationships and being married, then it really, that's what it is. We're playing all the time.
Yeah. And I would also like to say that, you know, if we take it back a couple of years, a few years when we actually met, it was not from the space of like, oh my God, I have to find a partner and I have to get married.
It was quite the opposite.
Exactly the opposite, because both of us were very happy with where we were in our lives. Well, we both had stuff going on, of course, you always do, all of us. But it was not from this space of need.
No.
And that, I think, is a super key ingredient in relationship in general, but especially if you're going to create a business together with your partner, because if you have a need of each other already from the beginning, then you're actually killing a lot of possibilities. Because just think about it yourself for a few seconds. When someone is really, really like needy of you, usually you don't really feel like, oh my God, this is the person that I really want to create with and be together with 24/7. For a lot of us, at least, I can only speak for myself, but I think it's the same for many of you listening out there as well. That's not an energy that is generative and that creates more. So for us, and when we did, what was different from my point of view was that it was really this, it was like an awareness of like, oh, we are going to somehow, and it doesn't matter what it looks like. And I didn't even have a fixed point of view that it had to be that we were in a relationship. It was just an energy that I somewhere.
There was more possibilities that were opening up.
And somewhere, like maybe not consciously, but somewhere I had been asking for that energy because I knew that there was so much more available and so much more possible than I had experienced before, both in business and in relationship. So it was just a gut feeling, or whatever you want to call it, that was like, we're going to create something together. We're going to have fun together.
Yeah, and it was really this energy of fun. It was the fun was the underlying thing, or the prominent thing rather, that was there. The fun and the possibilities created by the fun. And I mean, the day before I met Amanda, I actually broke up with my ex. And the one thing that I actually demanded from the universe was to have joy no matter what. Yeah. And I did not want to be in another relationship. No.
Whoops. But the thing that I wanted to get to as well, that I think for us at least, that is very important, and it has been really important from the beginning, is that our relationship is actually based on creation.
Totally.
Because if we look at how relationship and especially marriage is in this world and in this reality, you're supposed to come home from work and be able to quote unquote relax together with your husband and wife and not have to think about all the stress from work.
Exactly.
For us, it's actually kind of, not the opposite, but it definitely doesn't have that kind of energy to it, because we're in a constant state of creation. And
fun.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And creation
excitement.
is fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's and for me as well, like when me and Andrea met and when we started to create, then I realized that I am way more creative than I ever given myself credit for. And now we're just about to go into a little break, and we will continue exploring this very soon. Thank you for listening.
See you soon.
No one needs to have a money problem, especially you.
Yeah, did you hear that? You have an unlimited and mostly unaccessed capacity to create money and a financial reality that works for you. Simone Milasas has a brand new book. It's called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And right now, when you go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, if you pre-order the book, you'll get a free online course. What if you can create money in ways no one else can? Just go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com to get your copy today.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show, Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I am here. My name is Amanda and I am joined today with my husband Andrea.
And here I am.
And just before the break, we talked about how our relationship and our marriage, obviously from the beginning, actually has been based on creating together, which I realize for us is like, it's just the way it is. It's the way that we choose to create our relationship. But I realize as well by talking to people that it's actually not that common.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, if you look at most people, I mean, when you talk about, the two things, first of all, there's the separation that we mentioned at the beginning. So they really separate business with being married. And when you actually ask them to try and think of putting them together, or, I mean, not asking them to put it together in that way, but making the association, they don't see the association. Yeah. Because the two things for most people are totally separate. Yeah. Now, if I look, I mean, I've been in relationships before, and so have you, and so has most people. And most people have businesses or are in business, and same thing goes for us. And I've actually had relationships, or rather business with my partners before, but it was not created in the way that Amanda and I are creating our business and life today. If we look at two examples, so the first time I was married, the way that it was that yes, we were in business together, but it was made out of a lot of expectations, and it was also based on creating these spaces of, now we have to rest, and now we have to have time off, and now we can't do this or we can't do that. A lot of limitations for the business itself. So in other words, the business was put on second or third place. And of course, it did not have the energy to really grow and expand. Yeah. And the one thing that I was really surprised by when we first started creating our business together and our life together was that it was one night when I just said to Amanda, hey, I have this idea. Do you mind if I, get out of it? And it was late at night. Do you mind if I just go up and start writing? Because this idea is really, really, so strong. And Amanda said, yeah, of course, I'm sleepy, so I'm going to go to bed, so you do what you want. And it was like, no point of view. And it was like, you feel like creating now? Just go and create. And that had never happened to me before. Whenever something like that happened, or, a phone call that you're having lunch or dinner, and you're like, oh, sorry, I just got to make this phone call now, because you get this ping and you have to do it now, and you don't know why. And it might just be to call an old friend to say hi, but you get somehow that phone call is going to create more, or it's going to create something greater, or that you getting out of bed in the middle of the night to go and write an idea that sounds like a totally crazy idea, like most of our ideas, actually makes sense to us, but somehow we're made wrong by somebody else for doing that. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I was so, really pleasantly surprised by Amanda's point of view on this, or rather lack of point of view, and just like, hey, you want to create now? Go create. And that, for me, created such an immense space of creation, and not just for the business, like I said, but for our relationship as well. And that's how we built both of it. So we really did not create a separation.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's also this, like the purpose of of being in a relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship or a business partner or any type of relationship, if it doesn't make your life greater, then honestly, what's the point?
Really,
and if it doesn't make you greater, then what's the point? And I think the thing that we do that at times can be extremely uncomfortable is that we kind of unhide and expose all of those, lies and points of views and judgments that we usually have about ourselves. Yeah. Because when we get together, or when someone gets together, when two people get together or more, that actually has no judgment of each other and that allow each other to be whoever they are, and also that are willing to see the greatness of each other and see Absolutely. The capacities. Because you all, like you guys, you all know what it's like. It's usually a lot easier to see a capacity or a greatness in someone else than it is to see it in yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing with us as well that we do is that we actually enhance each other's capacities that other people might have judged in the past, and that a lot of other people still judge today. For an example, just a simple example for myself, I've always been very restless, and I have a hard time sitting still, and I always have to do something, and I don't like being still, basically, and I like to multitask. I like to do several things at the same time. And a lot of people in my past, and still to this day, they say, but can't you just sit still and relax? Or can't you just have a conversation with me without moving around at the same time? You're not listening to me, or you're not being present, or whatever it is. But it's actually the exact opposite. For me, it's easier to be present when I do something at the same time. It can be something small, like doing something with my hands. Or just the other day, I had a conversation with my mom at the same time as I was, cleaning up the dishes in the kitchen, because I had to do something. And instead of judging that in each other, for me, for Andrea, and Andrea for me, we're like, okay, cool. So what's actually the capacity here that you have been judged for, and that you might have judged yourself for, that actually is a strongness that you can use even more?
Yeah, totally. And this is what I love about a relationship, is really lifting every single part of each other in each other.
Yeah.
And whereas most of the time relationships are based on power, and business is based on power as well in this reality. Yeah. So in relationships, in all relationships, you always have a power game. Somebody that is lead, somebody that is stronger, somebody that is this, and because of power, you are also made wrong, and you're making the other person wrong. And this is how this reality functions, which is totally insane.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that with somebody that you admire, respect, love, and you want to contribute to that person's life? You don't want to undermine that person's life, which is what most people actually do without even realizing that they're doing it.
Yeah.
And the same goes for business. The whole purpose of business in this reality is to actually, get more money than everybody and screw everybody else instead of, especially prove something. And if you're going to screw somebody, you're actually especially going to screw your partners. How much don't we see that in this reality?
Yeah.
And instead what we do is to really, really do what Amanda just said, is to lift each other, to see each other's capacities, especially the ones that we don't see in ourselves.
Yeah.
And even the people that we work with, our partners outside of our company we work with, that's how we work with them as well. We really try and see, okay, so how can this person contribute, and how can we contribute to this person? It's really a matter of contribution and growing and expanding, not just for ourselves, not just for the people that work and co-create with us, not only for the people that work for us, but for the whole world in general.
Yes, and I also want to this, as I mentioned as well, at times creating your life this way, especially together with someone else, can be extremely uncomfortable, because I can perceive as well that it may sound like, when we talk about this, it may sound like it's always pink clouds and rainbows and unicorns. It's definitely not. Like these last few years that we've been together, it's been extremely uncomfortable at times, and we scream at each other, and we get angry at each other, and we unhide each other's lies and each other's shit
constantly,
which can be extremely uncomfortable because we're so used to hiding parts of ourselves, and we're so used to hiding all of those things that we think is judgeable, and unhiding that in each other can be extremely uncomfortable, and it brings you so much closer if you're willing to unhide it and actually look at it and be present with it without judging it.
Yeah, and it's also about having your barriers down. And of course, we're all going to putting our barriers up from time to time, but it's also the willingness to bring them right down when needed.
Yeah.
Especially if you're unhiding each other, like Amanda said.
Yeah.
And if you're being totally present and totally vulnerable, then, you know, the possibilities really do open up.
Yeah.
And the other thing of how people create their business is really is very much this thing that we've spoken about of not separating, but even to another level, because most businesses are created on creating something for the person or the people that own the business, and everything else has to suffer because of that. And so you still have a lead role. It's still a power game in some way. And what I mean with, like, you know, looking at the greater picture of how can we contribute to the world with what we do, it goes beyond money. It goes beyond everything else. And it's really trying to, I mean, our business is based on empowering other people to, you know, to
Maybe
create
we
their
should
life.
mention what it is that we actually do.
Right. Do we have another 3 hours? Our business is called House of Belluso. You can go on houseofbelluso.com and see all about it. It's based on photography, but it's actually based on creativity more than photography.
Yeah.
So what our classes, basically, anybody can attend our classes, not just photographers. And we are here on a mission, basically, to empower people to be greater, to be more creative, and to create something greater for themselves and the people around them. So it's basically what we've been talking about so far.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like we have a million different projects going on at the same time. And that's another thing that is really important in the way that we create. And that another thing that I never acknowledged or allowed myself to be before we started creating our business together, because I thought that I had to stick to one thing and then I had to focus and I had to, you know, define basically what it is that I do. Now, looking at everything that we do and all the different projects we have going on, it's impossible to define.
It is. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that after the break.
Yes, we can. Thank you for listening. We'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Putting the fun back in business. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. Business, work, your job, hate it, bored, want to leave it? Or business, work, your job, fun, play, joy, fun? Which would you like to choose? You may not know this, but business, your job, work can actually be fun. Shake up your business routine. Check out my 3-part free video series on putting the fun back in business. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/fun and put the fun back in business.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome back from the short little break. My name is Amanda.
Back. And my name is Andrea.
And today we are here at the Joy of Business OMTimes show talking about how it is to be married and have a business together.
Is it possible?
It is.
Wow.
And just before the break, we were talking about how the way that we create our business makes it impossible for us to define ourselves and our business.
Totally.
Which is a big part of, or a big key in creating the way that we do.
Yeah, the minute you start defining yourself or your business, that's the minute you actually put it in a tiny box, and that box gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And as Amanda said before the break, that we have like a ton of projects going on at the same time. We have like 3 or is it 4 books? It's 3 books, I think, on the go now. Yeah. Or is it 4? It doesn't matter.
3.
We have 3 books going on at the moment.
Well, maybe it's 4. What do you know?
Maybe it's 4.
One more on the go.
Exactly. Maybe it's 1 more on the go. But we have 3 books in this 10 seconds going on. And 2 of them are just about to be published as well, which is brilliant. And we have a TV show which is going to be broadcasted all over the world. So we hope that you will watch it as well. And we have commercial shootings. We're not shooting people. Well, we are actually. My job is to shoot people. I'm a photographer, by the way. So our business is based on photography in general, but it's mainly based on empowering people to create greater lives. And I found that photography is actually a great tool to uncover things that we're trying to hide from ourselves. And it's actually a way to show real beauty.
Yeah.
And it's actually a facilitation tool that we use in different ways, and not just for photographers, but people in general in front of our camera.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like with the classes and the workshops and also the online content that we do for photographers and other creative people or just other people in general, it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
Totally not.
We are kind of like a walking, talking invitation to you stepping up to being more of yourself and stepping out of your comfort zone and actually allowing yourself to have a way different life. Yeah. And change whatever it is that you want to change. And this thing about being undefined, it's really, it sounds so simple to say, but it really has a lot to it. And I really invite all of you that are listening to look at all of those definitions that you have put on yourself. And again, this is where the where the challenge begins, and where you actually, if you're willing to, and if you dare, you can discover things that, and it might be very uncomfortable, but if you're willing to do it and to go down that, that unfamiliar path that you might never have walked upon before, what can be created and the magic that can show up,
it's incredible,
beyond what I can ever explain in words. And it's different for everyone, of course. I can just speak for myself, like with all these projects that Andrea just mentioned. Just 2 years ago, I would never have believed that I was going to call myself a book publisher or an author or
a TV producer
or a business consultant or any of these things that I am today doing. And it's not about the titles and it's not about the definitions. It's about exploring.
It is. It really is. So if you stop defining yourself and you instead saw the possibilities and the capacities that you have, there are really infinite.
Yeah.
If you're really willing to look at them and explore. And I'm not saying that, tomorrow I can start being the architect for a great building, and who knows? I mean, I don't have the actual knowledge for that, but if you're willing to actually acquire the knowledge needed to do certain things, and if you're willing to see your capacities with that knowledge, really it is unlimited.
Truly, and that's one of the things that I am so grateful for with us and our relationship and our marriage, is because Andrea sees things in me that I don't see in myself, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And the true gift of any type of relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship or whatever, is for the other person to look at you and say, hey, do you realize how amazing you are with this? Have you ever acknowledged the fact that you are a fantastic whatever it might be? And 99% of the time, it's like, no, I never even thought about that, and I never realized that this is actually something that I'm good at.
No, and because of the things that are the most obvious to you and the easiest to you, and all of those things that you would not even consider about yourself are actually your strong points, and you refuse to see them as your strong points. Yeah. First of all, because maybe you've actually been made wrong for all of that, and also because you've been processed in a way throughout life that you should not make yourself look more than you should be in order to fit into everybody else's points of views in little boxes. What if you didn't have to have a box at all? What if you could actually have a greater future? What if everything you actually dreamt of and everything that has been considered like a crazy dream of yours is actually what you know is possible for you and your life and your business and your marriage and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the really cool thing that I've realized more and more, and that I actually see is true, is that if it is in your awareness, if it is in your head or in your thoughts or in your dreams, it's actually because you have the capacity to create it.
Totally.
And because if you didn't have the capacity to create it, it wouldn't even be there from the beginning.
No, the minute you think of something, the minute you dream of something, it's already been created.
Yeah.
You just have to actualize it. And in order to actualize it, first of all, you have to recognize and acknowledge the fact that you have the capacities of actually actualizing it.
Actually actualizing
it, yes. And also, I mean, what Amanda said about us uncovering parts of each other that we don't see in each other to start from, it's also in ourselves, right? And it's also the other way with the discomfort in like being willing to uncover these points that we are trying to hide of ourselves that are uncomfortable when they're being discovered or uncovered rather, and really look at them with total vulnerability. And yes, it does create a little bit of a grinch, and it does create friction, and it does create, one screaming at the other or both at each other or whatever. But my God, whenever we look at, any discussion or argument or whatever that we've had, it's created so much. It's created so much, and it was actually necessary at that point. So what if you were not to judge any of those points that this reality considers as negative or destructive? Yeah. Because if that's how you consider them, that's exactly what you're creating. Yeah. And what if instead you looked at it as possibilities and, what is right? One tool that I love is what is right about this that I'm not getting. And if you ask that without looking for the answer, you will actually see that, everything actually comes for a reason. And that reason could be that you actually asked for it.
Yeah. And the one thing that you said there as well, that really is another key stone in creating a relationship this way, is the vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because that thing of unhiding each other's lies and basically calling out each other on our bullshit, and whenever either of us try to be small or play pathetic or like, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 instead of like, oh, it's fine, you're going to be all right, both of us were like, come on, seriously? Is that actually what you want to choose? And if you want to choose that right now, that's fine too. That's another part of the vulnerability and allowance for each other, to not judge any of it. But we don't align and agree with each other's lives.
No.
Rather, we're like, okay, cool. That's interesting that you want to choose to believe that you are not good enough right now. I know for 100% that it's not true. So what invitation can I be for you to see that with yourself as well? And I think that can only be there, that possibility can only be there if you're willing to be that vulnerable. And that is sometimes super challenging because we are so used to having walls and barriers up and to hide parts of ourselves and to not allow anyone else, including, and maybe, which is even more screwed up, especially our partners.
Yeah.
Because we're so used in this reality that you don't show everything to your partner, or that you only have to show your partner the good sides of you so that they will stay with you. Like, there's so many insane...
Yeah, and this reality calls that kindness when in fact it's the biggest unkindness you could have.
Yeah.
Because if you're
especially to yourself.
Yeah, to yourself and to your partner.
Yeah.
If you are, just keeping those things away, good or bad, according to this reality, away from your partner or yourself, you're not actually allowing greater change to actually happen.
Yeah.
Instead, you're solidifying all the limitations more and more and more and more. So all that this reality calls an unkindness of, unveiling the whatever is going on, the limitations,
yeah,
is actually an act of unkindness.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, even in our wedding vows, we told each other that it's like the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes, and the crazy.
And the crazy. And it really is, if you have total allowance for each other, then it's like, yeah, Andrea can be a total asshole, and I can be the biggest bitch in the world sometimes, and that's fine.
And it's really funny when we discovered just these two things, the asshole and the bitch. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because, this reality would actually go into separation immediately. And instead, we both went, it happened at two separate times. And both times it was like, wow, I can actually be that. And having each other saying, yes, and how can you use this to your advantage?
Exactly, and not judge it.
And not judge it. Mm. And it's created so much. And it came to the point where, I'm not going to go into telling the whole story, but an episode at the airport in Paris when I was being an asshole, not towards Amanda this time, but towards a member of staff of Air France. And I was being a total asshole, willing to be arrested and willing to be thrown out of the country or whatever. And that was actually turning on people at the airport, seriously turning on, yes, in that way. And that created so much more, not only for what we were trying to achieve, but the ease in not in ourselves, not for each other, but for everybody else that was actually assisting us with this big scene. So what could you be and create that you're actually judging of yourself and allowing your partner, or actually rather empowering your partner to uncover those things that would create so much more that in this reality would be judged as totally wrong.
Yes. And now we're just about to go for another break, and we will continue exploring this very, very soon, in just a few minutes.
See you soon.
What do you hate about business? And do you want to change it? If you don't want to change anything about your job or business, stop listening. You're all good. If you'd like to have money just for the fun of it and stop the negative self-talk, check out Joy of Business. This is about knowing what you know about business and creating more than you can imagine. Access Joy of Business 101 classes offered around the world. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/101.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, The advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for listening. We are here at the Joy of Business OMTimes radio show. My name is Amanda.
And my name is Andrea.
And we're talking about being in business and being married. And right before the break, we were actually talking about how being an asshole or being a bitch actually can be a great capacity. And I would also like to say that is definitely true and definitely a capacity or something that you can use if you're willing to when it comes to business.
Totally.
Because one thing that I've been running businesses for many years, and one thing that I had as a great limitation actually in my life in general and also in business was that I was not willing to be a bitch. I was not willing to be mean or rude or whatever, which meant that other people could basically stomp all over me, which obviously doesn't work and doesn't create more. And the really cool thing that I think is such a gift is when you're willing to see all of those things as a capacity and not judge it as right or wrong, and really just use it.
Absolutely. And the thing that this reality tells you about being an asshole or a bitch in business is that very often it tells you that you have to be that in order not to be, killed or whatever. And it doesn't really look at the fact that you don't have to use it, as long as you're willing to use it and use it when necessary.
Exactly. And that really is, and if we want to talk a little bit more about how we actually create business on a quote-unquote practical level, is that we're willing, as a married couple as well, when we go to business meetings, we always ask a million questions before. And we always look at, okay, so what is required here? What does this person need to hear? And what can they hear? What are they willing to hear? What are they willing to receive? And what energy can we be in order to have this turn out into the greatest way possible?
Yeah, and for everybody involved as well. Yeah. And really looking at that and really looking at what we can create, and especially when we're meeting like big clients together, we always look at, okay, so what is this person willing to hear? What are they willing to be or do and contribute and whatever, and see what's in it for them as well. And looking at it from all the different aspects and not based on what this reality tells you. And in fact, we get rid of all the expectations as well of any meeting, because when we go into expectations, that's when you're actually destroying what we would like to create. Yeah. And that's how we create both our marriage and our business. And every single business meeting and every single job, every single shoot, every single class, every single thing that we do, we really, remove all the expectations that we have and projections that we have about ourselves and about each other. Because when you go, if you base any business or any relationship on expectations, this starts putting a lot of pressure and demands on the other person or people.
You're setting yourself up for being disappointed.
Totally.
Because most things, people, situations, projects will never live up to your expectation, especially not if you have decided exactly what it's going to look like before it even happens. Because one big lesson that I've learned that I'm very grateful for is that it never, ever, 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 ever shows up the way you think it will.
Nope. And if you're going to disappointment, that's what you'll have. Yeah. If instead you're willing to really look at it from the beginning as okay, I know that it will not show up how I think it will show up,
Yeah.
then you will be surprised with even greater things that show up. And with that, I mean that even when you have, I mean, we've done classes that have been tiny. We flew all the way to Mexico for doing a tiny little class with 10 people in it. So we actually did not earn any money. We didn't make any profit. In fact, we lost a lot of money on that. But what that class created was immense. It was huge. And you know, so when you go into that and you say, okay, so I'm going to create my business or my relationship, whatever, without any expectations. And sure, if I don't make any money, let's talk about business now because it's easier to grasp. But I'll do this business project and I'll not go into it for the money. I'll just do it for the exploration. And let's see if Amanda and Andrea actually had right. First of all, there you actually get trying to prove something. And then you will automatically go into, okay, well, if I don't make money, then I will certainly meet people that will create greater business right after that. And, well, then you're making projections again. So you're just doing anything that is possible with any of these things. So what I'm talking about is really going into no point of view, really no projections, really no expectations, and really going for the ride of the adventure of your life and your business and your marriage every single second.
Yeah. And that question that you mentioned before as well, what is right about this that I'm not getting? It's so helpful.
Oh, totally.
And it creates so much every time I ask it and we ask it together, whatever it is that shows up. Like, oh, we put up a class and no one registered. Okay, what's right about that I'm not getting? Poof, 2 seconds later, we get a phone call and like, hey, we would like you to come here to do this project. And it was the exact same dates.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, obviously we were not supposed to do that class. We were supposed to go over here and do something completely different. But you have to be willing to ask the question and you have to be willing to have no point of view. And instead of like, oh my God, I just put up this class and no one registered and I'm such a failure and blah, 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 blah. Nothing that I do succeeds, yada, yada, yada. Guess what?
You're creating more of that.
Yeah. Your point of view creates your reality. And if you're willing to like, okay, whatever, on to the next, and what was right about that I'm not getting, and what else is possible.
And everything that Amanda said now is actually so visible, so tangible, so palpable with photography.
Yeah.
And that is how that's what our business is based on. Actually, I have an idea. We could actually say that our business is actually based on, what do you call it, when you have something to demonstrate something else?
I don't know.
I don't know. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that with photography, you have point of view of the camera or the light, and you can really see so clearly that if you're shooting a subject with the light coming from a certain angle, and you shoot that person or the subject from one side, it gives you one picture. If you change side, just going to the side of that person or that object, it becomes a totally different picture with a totally different mood and feeling and everything.
Yeah.
So with that, you demonstrate that your point of view creates your reality. And everything, all the tools that we use from Access applied to photography actually make the whole thing very visual and very tangible and very understandable for everybody to see and realize and actually facilitate themselves through the pictures, through photography and all of this. So that's why I was saying earlier, 2 breaks ago or 3 breaks ago in this show, that what we do is not just for photographers, but it is really for everybody if you're actually willing to see behind or rather beyond the facade, which is photography, which is my passion.
Yeah. And I mean, what it all comes down to, and I know that this sounds way too simple and like a bit annoying because it might sound like we're oversimplifying things, but we are so used to making things more complicated than they have to be, especially when it comes to business, especially when it comes to marriage and relationships. Jesus, it must be so complicated all the time, and games here and there, and power games and all of that. What if it was way easier than that?
Yes.
And the tools that we use to create our business comes from something that is called the joy of business.
Yes.
And what if it was actually that easy? What if you put your time and your attention and your energy into what makes you joyful? And if you actually did what was fun for you?
Yeah, and it is really that. And, money, which is what people think that business should be about, money follows joy.
Yeah.
And joy,
not the other way around.
is that just choice.
Yeah. And really, like, what if, I know that I keep repeating this in like every video and every radio show I do, but what if it really can be so much easier than we ever thought was possible? Because we have so many projections at us, like if I speak from me and Andrea, like, oh my God, you're married and you have so much going on and there's so many different projects and you're traveling all the time and how's it going? And it must be stressful and, you know, and it could be so easy to listen to all of that. And what I have done previous in my life when I was younger was that I was like, oh yeah, you must be right. I probably am about to burn out or hit the wall or whatever. But is that actually true, or is that just other people's judgments and projections and them projecting their whatever it is that they have going on onto you? Yep. Because there you are and you're creating what seems to be impossible.
Yeah, and most of the time, I mean, I've hit the so-called wall according to this reality, and what I know now is that when you think that you're just about to hit the wall, or when you think that you have hit the wall, it's actually a point where either you need to change something in your life, and you actually desire to change something in your life, and you always know that something greater is possible, or you don't have enough going on in your life. Yeah. As absurd as it might sound, when you are in that space of just creating shit in your life, whether it's your business or your marriage or whatever, is that you're actually bored and you need to add something. Yeah. You have infinite energy available to you. You are infinite energy. So if you don't put that energy into something creative, into something generative, you're actually going to create more crap in your life.
I saw a quote the other day that I thought was so cool, and it's so true, and it resonates so much with what we're talking about. And it said, if you're tired, you're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're not doing enough of what sparks a fire in your heart, or whatever the quote was. But it's so true. Yeah. And I used to think that I had to do less because I was tired all the time, and my body was sick all the time, and I was just miserable. And now the show is over. Thank you so much for listening. We might have to do part 2 soon.
We might have to do part 2, but just ask yourself, whenever you're having fun, can you ever stop?